nobody's going to be listening to us in Times Square, so I could just get started and our face would be up there and nobody would know the difference. It's not like New York is going to stop and pay attention to anything we're saying. Okay, great. Well, thank you everybody for being here tonight. And I'm excited about today for a lot of reasons. One is that I've always been interested in how ideas travel and what sticks, what doesn't stick, and how culture and ideas can sort of inform our lives, our perceptions, the stories that we tell. And Tiffany Shlain, the director of this film, is just one of the most creative filmmakers that I've had a chance to work with, because she sort of tells stories by animating, she makes them personal, she has her own distinct voice, she's highly interactive and exploratory, she's always experimenting with technology, and I think today is just a great example of something like, you know, she made this film anticipating that Hillary Clinton was going to be our president, and that was going to be the end of the movie. That's not what happened, as we all know. And the question really was, have we gone forwards? Have we gone backwards? Where are we now? Like, what do we really want the discussion to be around parity and representation and the representation of voice? But I also think that the film and in particular cultural organizations like the Leonardo or what we try to do at the Film Center play a unique role in kind of gathering that intersection of imagination, moral imagination, leadership, pointing towards examples, looking at, you know, peeling back, you know, the pages behind innovations, where did an idea come from? So I thought it would be funny for you to know how we end up on Times Square. So I'm sure you all remember the debacle that happened on United Airlines about a month ago, where a passenger was forcibly removed and physically not treated, not only incorrectly, but abusively. And they had bought that Times Square advertising to promote how great their employees are and their customer services. And they clearly got some damage control messages from their advertisers that that's not what you're going to be putting up on Times Square this month anyway. So they had to give the advertising away to someone. So they reached out to NARAL, which is a great women's organization. That's been working on everything from equal rights to, you know, medical and access to healthcare issues. And they had just had a pitch session from Tiffany to be a partner. And so they said, well, why don't we put the trailer up? Like, why don't we do something that could be really fun? So, you know, how ideas travel or how we get here and how that became sort of a strategy to create media impressions, but also to generate media about this idea of 50-50. How we went from, you know, a few organizations signing up to 11,000 venues around the world really has to do with the way ideas travel today, and what is so exciting for all of you that are here, like really thinking about your future, how you invest in it, what your learning plan, what your work plan is for to really sort of figure out how you integrate your passion with your talent and your time. And there's so many more opportunities now because you can get access to ideas. They've been democratized by the internet. You can take classes online. You can listen to TED Talks. You can find short videos. You can get perspectives from the media from around the world. So we're living in a very, very robust, information dense time. And the question really is, what are the stories that really need to be told and deserve to be told, that are going to stand the test of time, that are going to represent what we're actually experiencing as human beings this moment in time, you know, on the planet right now? And I would argue that there's a real need to have more diverse voices in media. From the very beginning of broadcast media and the ability to televise and share ubiquitously stories on television, first on radio, then on television, there was always this notion that the airwaves are owned by all of us. They have to be fair. There has to be access to representation and storytelling. And it's always been against the competition of commercial ratings and broadcasts that we continue to fight for airtime for a lot of things we think and value as part of what it means to be in a democratic republic. Today, those access to those platforms is easier, but which voices get paid attention to and how they then get valued has completely changed based on these new platforms that we have available through social media. You can literally broadcast, a talent and be discovered based on your ability to create good content and put it up on the screen or your telephone or your television. So the question really becomes, what are the stories that we want to share and why are they important? And for me personally, I've always just been really attracted to very creative people, so I'm a reader. I sort of started out really loving nonfiction and fiction, and really understanding where good stories can help us travel. And got interested in film when I moved here because I had been working for a magazine that was also looking at this idea of good storytelling and nonfiction narrative storytelling and why we had to why the whole field of documentary filmmaking was exploding with creativity, with new forms of storytelling. And that really led me to stories that I drawn to really turned out to be quite personal, not knowing it originally. The first two films I made one was about children that are sold into the sex slave trade from Nepal to India. And I really wanted to understand what that looked like. I couldn't believe that there was slavery and that young girls were being sold and forced into prostitution as young as 8 years old. The median age was 11 or 12. It was hard to believe. I wanted to see it for myself. And then to be able to use technology, hidden cameras, to go inside these brothels and be able to show evidentiarily, this is actually happening in the world. We need to know about it. So that was the first film, and then the second film, Born into Brothels, was about children that were born into prostitution. So their mothers probably became prostitutes against their will, but they didn't want by a man that the grandfather or person I babysat for, and I didn't know how to talk about that. And so those stories, to me, the stories that we've been silenced around and the taboos that we can't talk about for women and girls is still the premier kind of work that I think still needs to be done. The kind of idea that you believe people if they say they've been sexually assaulted versus behave as if 96% of young women are lying when they say they've been raped or sexually assaulted, because the statistics are that only 4% of girls that report that have been sexually assaulted are lying or making it up. Only 4%, just like any other crime. But we behave as a culture as if 96% of them are not telling the truth. And what are those beliefs that we carry, all of us, men and women, mothers and fathers, in the workplace, to not believe people when they say something that has happened to them? And how do you get those stories out in such a way that they can touch people and not make people afraid to talk about them? That's what I think is the greatest privilege of working in the storytelling business, is you really get to take deep dives into worlds that you might not normally travel in, or maybe they're worlds that you just believe to be the way that it has to be, and it doesn't. And what I'm excited about for this film, 50/50, is to sort of put on record a table, a long table like this, full of the human potential that's in this room, and imagine the stories that you're going to write about your own future and history and the differences that you're going to make, because you believe you can, because you've been given the opportunity to, and because you get to write your story with the kind of confidence that you deserve, not kind of walking timidly into a new profession of biochemical engineering and knowing whether you belong, but knowing that you belong and you have a contribution to make, and that it's your job to find your colleagues and peers to work collaboratively, in the future that you want to create, and the companies that you're going to be part of, and the schools that you're going to go to. So I just feel like it's a great privilege to be alive in this moment today. I feel like we have huge narratives that are a huge, like, intergalactic. I think everything is like intergalactic right now, whether it's bipartisan, intergalactic. Like, the stakes are very high. Institutions are dying off, new ones are being born, you know, and so to kind of be part of a narrative, as Tiffany says, it says, maybe the scarcity thing isn't working for us. Maybe we have to talk about abundance. We're seeing that with environmental films. Maybe we need to focus on the things that are working, that if we put in place right now, what would it look like? Versus the things that are making people be paralyzed, that maybe we're at the point of no return. So, like, really thinking about language and how you frame things, and possibility, and then challenging people that, you know, try to snuff that light out or try to snuff that candle out, I think is all of our jobs as a community, but also something that I hope, especially for the young women and men in the room, they feel emboldened to sort of ask for and dream for and challenge, and get the kind of work experience that you really need to build a portfolio for your life that really teaches you to learn and love to learn, and explore through storytelling for the rest of your lives, because I think it's one of the great teachers, and one of the ways that we learn most of all is through the stories that we hand off. So. I don't know if I still have time. We're done, we're wrapping. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here, but also for this exhibit downstairs. I mean, it's sort of like, I hope you all get a chance to cut and make a stencil of someone that's been forgotten or erased from history, or not remembered in the way that she should have been, and that it becomes a jumping off point for conversation for all of you intergenerationally and for years to come. But thank you. And thank you, Jan, for your beautiful work and leadership.